Welcome to Beyond the Briefing, I'm Shannon Marvell. The Bear All protest in Inverness documents a protest against the Equalities and Human Rights Commissions and Supreme Court rulings impacting trans rights. Multiple speakers address the erosion of trans rights. The protest highlights specific instances of discrimination, including hate crimes on trans people and access to public facilities. Speakers also emphasise the historical content of trans oppression and the call for continued activism and solidarity. With me today is Andrew Henderson, who is here to speak to Star and Beth in a second. But first off, let's quickly give a rundown to what this Supreme Court ruling was.
Yeah, so the ruling in itself, there's a lot of knock-on impact around it, a lot of different things that it's affected. But the ruling itself really just boils down to a supposed clarification that in the Equality Act 2010, when they're talking about sex, it means biological sex. To expand on that just a wee bit, trans people could get a gender recognition certificate which would legally change their gender. It was ruled that if you're talking about single-sex spaces in sports, in hospitals, in changing rooms, that sort of thing, GRCs weren't really applicable anymore. So if a trans woman tried to enter those spaces, they would still be seen as male as opposed to trans women in accordance with their identity.
And how does this ruling affect people in the Highlands?
Well, there are LGBTQ plus people and trans people all over the world, all over the country, including in the Highlands, who are being directly affected by the rulings. In the aftermath of the decision that the Supreme Court made and some of the guidance that the EHRC handed out, protests sprung up all over the country. We saw some big ones outside Westminster, outside Holyrood. There was one in the immediate aftermath of those decisions in Inverness at the townhouse, and there's another one a couple of weeks ago which we decided to jump in to investigate a wee bit more by inviting Star and Beth, who helped organise that second protest, in to talk to us.
Andrew, the floor is yours.
What do we want? Trans rights. What do we want? Trans rights. When do we want it? Now. When do we want it?
Why do we think a second protest after the first one happened a couple of months ago was necessary about the Supreme Court decision?
I mean, it's the same as like why was a first protest needed? You keep doing it until there's change. I think it's pretty much that simple. You just keep going until something can change, until your message is heard, till you get what you want across.
The first one was, a recurring theme of it was celebration and trans joy, whereas this one seemed like there was a little bit more anger to the protest. Was that fair, first of all?
I think it would be fair.
Just with everything happening in the world right now, fascism being so, just like so common, and our rights being stripped away from us every single day, the longer that it goes on, obviously, the more angry, and then it was more of an emotional protest this time, and I talked a lot about like the history of things and why things are the way they are now and how we can dismantle them.
It is scary, and it is like history is repeating itself. We will overcome this, as we have done before. We'll keep fighting for our rights and making a stand for the community. Trans rights are human rights.
You both spoke at this protest. Was there anything in the speeches throughout the day that kind of stood out to you?
It was kind of with Beth's speech, because Beth kind of had an idea of what they wanted to say, so there was a lot of learning about LGBT history and comparing it to today. So I think that kind of stood out to me, seeing how far the human race has come in terms of accepting pride and people and stuff like that, accepting all that, and then how it's very much just going backwards on itself now.
Somewhere over the history of our world, as time moved forward and the grip of fascism and white colonialism swept up across the earth, things changed.
I've been a victim of a number of transphobic attacks. I've been chased while slurs are thrown at me. I've been yelled at for going to the toilet. I've been harassed on the train home from my queer group.
Sarah, you talked a lot about how life is as a trans person, how the ruling affected you.
Yeah, very much. For me, what it currently feels like as a trans person is that a lot of what I feel media is making us look like, people using their platforms are making us out like we're these kind of creepy people that we want to spy on people, when all we really want to do is just live as ourselves.
It's just dehumanization and dehumanizing language to take away our right. One thing that stood out to me as well from one of the speakers, Andy, his speech was kind of like, I wanted to be like a good trans person.
I had wanted to be respectable. I had wanted to be a nice trans person that you could get along with, a trans person that, would answer your questions and have the patience of a saint. I wanted to be a respectable trans person. Now I just want to be a living mum.
How was the reaction on the street from people just walking by?
I think it was mostly okay. People there was the occasional person that was against it, but no one did anything to come against us. A lot of people came up, and Beth, you did speak to a few people. You could help teach people about what it is we're doing and what the point is.
There was these two teenage boys, and they were walking past, and they were like, disgusting, disgusting. So I went up and I spoke with them, because I am very a person as well that I want to dismantle these things and I want to change these things. So I take the approach of I would rather teach them. I want them to learn from this. I don't want them to think, because if I go up to them aggressive or whatever, they're not going to listen to me. So I went up and I spoke with them, and they said they just don't want it shoved down people's throats. And I explained that cis women have done protests like this. And then they asked if I was gay, and I was like, yeah, and I said I had a wife. And then they were basically did the pleasantries. Oh, well, yeah, have a good day. Thank you for coming and talking with us. So I'm hoping that it taught them something, and that maybe they'll come around to it someday.
The important thing is that they listened, and I think that's something that just needs to be happening more. And I think it is happening. It's just a very slow process with how literally everything's just going on in the world right now.
There was the topless element to this protest. How big of a statement do you guys feel like that was, and how did that come about, if you're able to talk about that?
I feel like it's a very big statement, and I think that it's coming into the whole kind of hypocrisy as well of how, cis men can be topless. When you get into it, it's if they start saying, well, it's a uterus, not every cis woman has uterus. If it's breasts, not every cis woman has breasts. Someone who has cancer and had to get their breast removed, does that make them no longer a woman? If someone can't have children, does that make them no longer a woman? It's just ridiculousness, and it ends up hurting everybody, not just the queer community, also cis women.
Human rights is not a pick a mix. It's not something that you can just take away from other people and give to others. We all have the right to go outside and feel safe. But unfortunately, some people want to deny us of these rights. They want to deny trans people going outside and using facilities such as bathrooms and changing rooms. They're taking away not just their rights, but their dignity, their freedom, and everything else that allows that person to live a happy life.
So how has the Supreme Court ruling affected your lives?
Bluntly, I'm terrified of just going to the toilet now. I've had a few transphobic attacks before this, but since then it just feels a lot more judgmental. A lot is weighing down on my mental health, because I'm constantly thinking, if I go in here, am I going to get attacked for something? Am I going to get attacked for just wanting to go for pee?
I'm non-binary myself, but I can be cis-passing if I want to be. I feel like generally people could perceive me as a cis person. So I always go in with my friends as well, because I feel like I kind of use my privilege to go in with them to make them feel more safe.
In terms of going forward, are there more protests planned for Inverness, and is that a conversation that's happening?
Definitely a conversation that's happening. We are, we're just in the process of planning a new one. I do know as well that the Good Law Project, they are challenging the Supreme Court decision in November, I think it is. So they are actually legally challenging this.
Our fight's not going to stop here. There will inevitably be more protests until there is change. How those go, hopefully the same as they have been, because they've been very careful with it, with make sure everyone's happy, everyone's safe.
Mm-hmm.
I am a woman as much as any other woman out there. No woman is more woman than any other. No man is any more man than any other. If you're a woman, you are a woman. If you're an MP, we're an MP. If you're a man, you're a man.
Did you ever expect to sit there and be like, well, if I come out protesting, will kind of be a part of that life?
I've kind of always kept an eye on what's happening with the LGBT community, and I've kind of been aware that it probably would come up, because the way that not everyone's going to accept everything. There is inevitably going to be a fight over something. I didn't expect it to get this big. I didn't expect that I would be, quite frankly, I feel like I'm fighting for my life.
I think I was kind of into activism before I kind of realized that it was non-binary, and I would separate myself from cis people and not fully identify with like being a woman. But yeah, I've kind of been fighting for different intersectionalities from ever since I kind of started becoming aware. I was ignorant, like blissfully unaware when I was younger, when I was 20s, and I grew up and I dismantled my own internalized prejudices. Then yeah, everything fell into place, and then now I feel like being a part of the protests and the action is going to be a big part of my life. I actually kind of feel like it's like my purpose in life.
You've been listening to Beyond the Briefing, the stories behind the headlines, diving deeper into the biggest local stories in the Highlands. This podcast is brought to you by Highland News and Media. It's hosted by Shannon Marvell and produced by Christopher Dixon. If you enjoyed this show, make sure to subscribe and share with others who care about local journalism.